Alright guys, Central Bit here again today, and we got some big news yesterday from the Call of Duty scene. Not all that surprising, but nonetheless shocking, and it's really incredible how these things are still possible. Of course, franchising around the corner shouldn't occur next year, but we've dealt with this for several years now in Call of Duty, and it's finally come to a head, most likely. And in a few months' time, when franchising comes around, we shouldn't see any more of this, at least in the professional scene. It's really remarkable how this happens to some of the very best players in the world. And yet, well, maybe it will continue in the amateur scene. We'll just have to see. That's just, I guess, the state of esports being in a pretty immature state right now. Immature in terms of years of growth, rather than necessarily the people being immature. But wouldn't be surprised if we ever look through some of these tweet threads in just a second here. So, like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. And firstly, before we begin, the finals of the Australian Anaheim qualifiers just finished. MindFreak, of course, took down the victory against a team called Scars, who were at CWL London. MindFreak, of course, won the Mountain Dew Amp Game Fuel Open bracket at CWL London, beating Kairos, which was Josh's team, B-Sport Josh, in the grand finals, even though they won 6-0 map count, actually, in the grand finals. Pretty crazy stuff. But anyway, they're going to be having free flights and accommodation out to Anaheim, so very cool. We'll see if they can defend their title. Let's move on to the denial stuff. That's what we're going to focus on here. So, a little bit of history for you guys. This Robbie Rinalda guy, he was the former Denial owner. Of course, they won the World Championship. Attach, Clayster, Replays, and JCap, of course, won the World Championship back in 2015 in Advanced Warfare under the Denial organization. Then they had some significant issues between the 2016-2017 years. You know, there was the whole Denial LAN thing, which some of you guys may be aware of, where Denial said they were going to be hosting some sort of LAN tournament, which never happened, and it's been a kind of running joke in the CoD community as to, well, if you don't expect anything to happen, you will then, the punchline is like, oh, it'll happen when the Denial LAN happens, or something along those lines. So, anyway, Denial ended up folding a couple of years ago, and then back in business, baby. Well, anyway, this is what the former CEO said just yesterday. So all I wanted to do was get the players played back, and was willing to forfeit 6 years of hard work to do so. I'm still not sure exactly what's going on. I'll do all I can. Feel free to DM if you're personally affected. So this guy, like a lot of people say, he was one of the biggest causes for the failures in the past with Denial. And then, of course, they've got new ownership earlier, well, I think last year sometime, or earlier this year, with this Zach guy coming in. And we'll talk through his twit longer in just a second, because it is genuinely mental stuff. So yeah, he says, not trying to play the victim, I've got no benefit in coming back, just trying to get people like your CSGO boys paid, which I thought all happened in January when the players posted screenshots of payment. So this guy's obviously still looking at what's going on behind the scenes, because since Zach has taken over, well, in the last few months, it's not gone particularly well, let's put it that way. We're going to go through all the details in the coming minutes here. So, Scoot says the following earlier yesterday. A word on the street is that Denial Esports is folding up their circus tent and leaving town again, owing current players money as they run for the hills again. Blackbeard app, which we'll look through in a second, was apparently a fake CEO too. Honestly, incredible when we go through that in just a second here. Wonder if the courts will see it that way. So, Sir Scoots, legend of esports, been around forever, competitive gaming esports fan, advisor, broadcast talent logistics, etc, etc. He set up the Players Union for CSGO, and this is the tweet thread from Zach, the CEO. We talked about this before. So effectively, his bio, as you can see right here, it's nothing personal, it's just business. Superb stuff. So the story is, he came in earlier this year, and this guy called Blackbeard, who we'll have a look at in a second, he went out, okay, guy called Patrick, here he is. So we'll have a look through this video in a second, or at least I'll link it down below, you guys can watch it. So effectively, he reached out to this guy Blackbeard to invest, and he said that if you did invest and you made all these Twitter videos, as you may have seen some of Blackbeard's Twitter videos.
What's up, baby? Call of Duty! I told you we were going big, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're going big. We're gonna fucking bring this trophy home. That's what's up. See us there, man. Let's go!
Going hard, trying to motivate players. It's pretty mental. And then Zach said that if you do that, you can become like effectively honorary CEO, even though you don't really do anything. And I thought Adam Fitch summed it up pretty well here when he said, a message from Denial's Chief Vibes Officer. I don't know if Adam came up with that, but that is honestly superb. Chief Vibes Officer, literally what Blackbeard was. So Zach was effectively running the show, and there was no one else really contributing. And when other people tried to, I think there was a guy called Jerry that Blackbeard mentions in his video that tried to step in when things started going sour, then he didn't really have much control, and it was effectively Zach deciding things. And as I've seen in the past, because there's been this, Overtime Esports, the guys that had the spot before Denial bought it out of the French team, they supposedly haven't been paid by Zach, and also the same thing going on with the players. And as we'll look at in a second, Risk and a lot of the old Overtime guys that were on Denial for a little bit and have now been dropped for this completely new squad that they have, which have also been dropped and are looking for a new organisation, which is just crazy. We'll have to have a look at that in just a second here. Anyway, those French guys are looking for the spot to go back to Overtime. Zach effectively is resting on what he thinks is in the contracts to ensure that he doesn't have to pay people that he should be having to pay, which is just the sign of a scumbag, really. Okay, so let's go through this thread here. Truly mind-blowing. We started off trying to do something gained with a tainted name and a lot ahead of us. As we started fixing past mistakes, we started creating new ones. We trusted the wrong people and paid for it more than once. I'm not that sad that Denial is closing. I'm actually happy to see it fold. This is like, it reminds me of when someone like doesn't get into Oxford or Cambridge or something in the UK, and then they go to another like worse university, and then they're like, oh yeah, I never wanted to go to Oxbridge anyway. So, I don't know why he says that, but anyway, it showed me the true colours of a lot of people I used to call friends. From paying people's rent to making sure their players got to events, they so conveniently forgot the moment some French kid that dropped out of high school had an opinion on the situation. I'm assuming he's talking about either Risk or Natche, or one of those guys that obviously wasn't happy that they didn't have their money. Of course, we talked about this situation now. Supposedly, Zach and the Denial guys, they couldn't actually pay the French players because they didn't have the required ETSA or whatever they needed to be able to be paid. But of course, that was probably something cheeky that Denial managed to slip into the contract so that they didn't have to pay if a certain situation happened. And supposedly, Denial were not incredibly willing to try and help them get that. So, just some dodgy stuff going all around. This is just the mind-blowing stuff. I'll probably call the title this. So, an opinion on a situation that he wasn't qualified to fathom based on his extremely low IQ. Like, who is this guy? As for the players claiming they were never paid a dime, I find it really strange, especially when I made sure there was money in Zeke's accounts because his daddy couldn't pay their mortgage. Must have forgot Overtime claiming that we stole their spot. Overtime was selling us their spot, conveniently forgot to tell us that they didn't own 2 players on the roster. This was a little bit of a mind-blowing thing because 2 of the guys on Overtime, they were still owned by Supremacy rather than Overtime, so there was a whole mess going on. Committing an international trade fraud, when brought to their attention, they agreed upon a low amount, yet refused to sign their release, and 2 months later came out crying that we duped them. As for the current CoD spot team, we weren't able to come to contractual terms, even though we added every request they wanted. We released them this morning to MLG. I wish them nothing but the best, especially Rated, because when we talked about the interview, you know, he said he got along kind of well with Zach, and obviously Zach's done some dodgy stuff. Doesn't mean he can't also do some good things, like paying for Rated's house when they got dropped on their ass by Red Reserve, which is just, I mean, what a year for those guys. I took the advice from an advisor and a journalist to give everyone the opportunity to walk from their contracts. Upon this closing, there are 2 teams still waiting on their pay that isn't late. PUBG, upon signing their release, will be all caught up. The only person that's in question is the kid, Define Legit, who, although he got in trouble overseas for buying hookers and blow, what is going on here? I decided to give him a second chance, which I never should have done. He was a non-stop issue, and it was no surprise this team wants to drop him. OGN now has the spot, but this is other esports, so I don't want to go through it too much. CSGO is outstanding due to them being in Brazil. They cannot be paid until they return home to their home country, which is kind of a similar kind of thing to what happened with the French guys, I think. Once they sign their release, they will be settled. Sir Scoots, I want to commend you. You played the old man on the lawn and you won this one. I wish you the best on your players' union. To the journalist, I miss your edgy articles and I'm sure your likes will feel a little low now that I'm gone. Classic. I learned a valuable lesson. Esports is like the first lunar landing. It was blown up in the public's eyes, cost copious amounts of money, and brought minimal physical return. Thank you to everyone, as always, go F yourself. What a fantastic job from Zach Tess, CEO. Truly superb. A very humble guy, as I'm sure you can tell. So, of course, as a result of this, we have this situation from Rated. We are now officially working with the CWL on finding a new home for the team license that will be for CWL Anaheim, Miami Champs. If you're interested or know of anyone to be interested, my email is the following. So, of course, the fact that they're working with MLG CWL seems like they'll probably get some investors, but it'll be interesting. We're going to have a new organisation in the CWL in hopefully just a couple of weeks, if someone actually wants to put the money on paper. So, genuinely mind-blowing, and, well, we'll just go back to this very briefly from Blackbeard, this Patrick guy. Effectively, he says that he didn't really have much control over what Zach was doing. Zach was running the show. Zach was taking on all these responsibilities and was kind of struggling to keep up with everything and make sure everything was getting paid on time. And Blackbeard, Mr. Chief Vibes Officer himself, says he'll be back stronger. I think Scoots makes a fair representation or suggestion in the replies to this. So, for the record, I do not hate you, and giving you a second chance is always possible. What I will say is that you're a wealthy man, and while you might not be obligated by the business, you could still do the right thing here. Pay those CS players. So there was this thing, the CS players went to an event in Brazil. They didn't get paid. Scoots had to, well, he didn't have to, but Scoots decided to bail them out effectively and give them the money, or at least the travel money that Donald should have given them. Scoot says it's $7,500, not a great deal of money for a man of your wealth. Sometimes we do the right thing because we are legally obligated, but because it is not because we are legally obligated, but because it is the right thing to do. Start your new time in esports by cleaning up the mess you are indirectly part of with denial. But so I mean, watching this video, it seems like this guy is genuinely pretty well-meaning, but just pretty damn naive on the control he had. So there's two sides of looking at it, of course. Chris Marsh, DeSoto Chris, takes a pretty negative stance on it, which of course is fair enough. I'm sure Patrick is a good dude, but who cares? He's supposedly an experienced businessman, accepted the title of CEO, the top person generally, when he was basically a Twitter cheerleader. Absolute insanity. How can you praise someone so much for the vibes? I did a great job, which is what he said in the video. Your job was to shout while you drove around in a sports car and brag about lifestyle. It's an absolute joke that anyone would claim they did something so pointless well. This denial saga is absolutely ridiculous from start to finish. What a surprise that Zach CEO, who brags about collecting businesses like money matches that are very visibly not doing anything, would make a hash of things. Spent more time bragging than actually doing anything. What a ridiculous group of individuals. Patrick is vowing to come back stronger. You'd be certified stupid if you took a chance on someone who's this naive. Being a cheerleader on Twitter does not qualify you to run a complex business in a highly competitive space. Steer clear or history will repeat. And then we have the following here from well, hashtag Team France, give the spot back to overtime. Apparently it was 40,000 euros that Denial bought the spot for, haven't paid them part of, if not all of the money. So genuinely a mental situation, and yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will leave you with this clip to finish off of Zach, the CEO, the 6'4", fully tatted guy, and this was his original video, courtesy of DeSoto. They put some things on screen, pretty good stuff, and then at the end I'll probably leave a nice clip, maybe from Teddy Rex, because he got a very nice 1v10 in control. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new. As always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, as always, and I'll see you very soon. And I will see you next time.
Issue with me, you got an issue with one of my employees, at me next time, or come see me. I'm at every fucking event. I sanction players, I hire employees, and I pay all of them. If there's a fucking issue, come see me. I'm 6'4", fully fucking tatted, I will smack the fuck out you, boy.
Guys, just playing crack. Holy shit, you can clutch it, you have a war machine if you really want to do it.
No, I'm not gonna throw.
I won't. Oh yeah, I won't be mad at you.
I will not be mad at you either. Okay, I'm mad at you.
Go,
Okay, streak steady.
Yeah,
1v4.
streak. You can streak him off spawn.
My
Holy
fucking
shit,
lord.
he's fucking doing it, boys.
We didn't see anybody. How? You're barrel.
Damn it.
Oh my god, I'm gonna shoot my pants.
Yeah, one ball on your war.
And you have a nade.
I say you shoot into dark. Shoot into dark. Oh. Oh. Nice. On me too.
You have a nade. Right here.
Let's go. 1v1. Last gun inside. You have a nade.
No.
He's on top.
Oh my